I'm going to call to order the. Oh,
Thanks, Matt. Thank you.
thanks, Matt. Call to order the commission meeting for the Port of Bellingham for Tuesday, November 5th, 2024. I'll start with the roll call. Commissioner Briscoe?
Here.
Commissioner Shepard?
Also here.
Commissioner Bell is here. I'm going to start by reading our advisory committee schedule. On November 12th, we have our Marine Advisory Committee at 6 p.m. It's going to be here in the Port Office Harbor Building. That's the Marine Advisory Committee, and it's in person only. They do serve pizza. And then I don't see the BIAC, no BIAC meeting.
I don't believe we have one scheduled, but you do have a BIAC item on your agenda today.
And then we're going to move to public comment. For public comment, we've got two different things to discuss tonight, and one of them is public comment on the budget. That's going to be held after we give a presentation and when we do the hearing on the budget. So if yours is a budget-related item, just hold your horses for a bit, and we'll get to that as soon as the budget presentation has come. The second one is an open call for public comment, and we'll take the names that we've got on the list. Anybody else wishing to speak on any topic that's not related to the budget, more than welcome to come up. We limit our discussions to 3 minutes. We ask that members of the audience not comment, not applaud, not boo or heckle or throw things. This is a civil discourse, and we ask that you keep it that way, and we let everybody have their say without that comment, and we would appreciate it if you would do the same. So we'll start with Dan Tucker.
Oh, I meant to sign up for the public hearing.
We're not going to start with Dan Tucker. We're going to start with Ryan Davis. Did you also mean to sign up for the?
No.
Okay, bring it.
Afternoon. My name is Captain Ryan Davis. I'm a licensed marine surveyor and captain. And I just wanted to open the discussion. I'm new to Port of Bellingham from Port Townsend, and I've recently taken command of this fireboat, the Moku Ahai, which is this. Encourage y'all to look it up. It's built in 1990 in Mississippi. She went over to Hawaii to serve her mission, and she's returned to the U.S., currently in Canada, and she's looking for moorage. And I'm on the way to partner with Washington State Ferry in terms of getting marine trade jobs and STCW training and Sea Scouts aboard. So potentially it's a boat that could look pretty good on y'all's books. He's open to talking and discussing if it's going to be here or somewhere else in Puget Sound, but he'd prefer it to be here. Freshwater should be in Fraser River, so it'll be pretty close. So.
Have you sent us a letter or given us any information?
Nope, this is just me getting it out of there. Hello.
Hi.
Here I am. But this is just starting, just opening it up.
Yeah, if it's an official request, just send a letter to Rob.
Perfect.
What was the name of the boat again?
So currently she's registered, to look it up, it's Moku Ahai, M-O-K-U space A-H-I. The vessel is currently registered as the Argonaut, but we'll be changing it to the Moku Ahai, which in Hawaiian literally means fire boat. So she's the pride of Hawaii. And yeah, we're thinking about, right now she's getting her fire cannon serviced, so we're thinking old wooden boat on one side, new one, maybe All-American Marine or something, and just big old party coming on down. But cool, right? Fun, that's it. All right, 3 minutes. Thank you for your time.
Yep. Welcome to Bellingham. Anyone else wishing to speak in the open session about any topic before the port or not before the port, other than the budget? Okay. All right, we'll move on to consent agenda.
I think we have a new hire introduction first.
Now, if I just follow the agenda. Camera?
Hi, Commissioners. I'd like to introduce Elise Ingalls, stand up in the back. She's our new grants administrator. She comes to us from the Snohomish Conservation District, where she did grants and contracts. She was specialist. And she is a graduate of Western, so she's happy to be back in Bellingham, and we are lucky to have found her.
Thank you, welcome. Again, welcome to the Port of Bellingham. Now we'll move on to the consent agenda. Mr. Briscoe,
I'm fine, I have no comments.
Mr. Shepherd,
Nope, I'm okay, go ahead.
and I'm okay. So the consent agenda, motion to approve the minutes. Motion to approve the consent agenda items A through G. Commissioner Briscoe,
Yes.
Commissioner Shepherd,
I'm a yes.
Commissioner Bell is a yes. All right, now on to the presentation for our Q3 financial report and 2025 budget presentation.
Hi, Commissioners. Tamara Sobczak, CFO. This is kind of a longer presentation than you're used to. We've got the normal quarterly updates, the third quarter financial updates, as well as discussion about the operating budget for 2025, capital budget, taxes, et cetera. So we'll just jump into the quarterly updates to start us off. Looking at our stormwater program, both permits are in compliance with training and record keeping. At the airport, the sample results were within permit limits. At the shipping terminal, we did have 12 exceedances in third quarter listed there. The site is currently under a level 3 corrective action, and we are on track to meet all of those required responses. Safety reports, not great. We've had 5 illnesses or injuries this year total. It's a recordable incident rate of 4.01. One thing I do want to mention about this, our accident prevention program just got beefed up, and so we're starting to train managers better on investigating the core causes of these injuries to try to avoid recurrence. So that's something proactive that we're doing. Looking at public records requests, we've had quite a slew of them this year. We've had 100 so far. A couple of them are pretty major that will take months and months and months to fulfill. And we've spent almost 450 staff hours year to date fulfilling those requests.
Can you fill us in on the nature of those? Typically, it's an airport.
No, not airports. We've had a couple of hardcourts. We've had requests for contracts, information on contracts, requests for the Fairhaven Marine, what is that called? Fairhaven Marine Industrial Repair Sites. Just a lot of different subject matter.
And the most timely, the most time-consuming ones?
Those would be those any and all environmental documents or any and all emails from this period to this period. It just takes a lot of time to go through that information and make sure that those records are disclosable. And
But what were those topics?
so hardcourts,
Okay.
contracts, leasing documents, and I just lost my train of thought. Oh, contracts was the biggest one that just came through. Yeah. Okay, so moving toward the financial information. So 9 months ago, our balance sheet looked like the column on the right. We had $516 million in assets, $218 million in liabilities, resulting in net assets of $298 million. 9 months later, our liabilities are increased. Remember, we issued debt in July, so that's included there. And our net assets did increase to almost $301 million. So the last update are the current investments. We have $12 million in federal securities, and those are earning approximately 3.6% interest. And then the balance of our invested cash is with the local government investment pool, earning, the end of September, it was earning almost 5.25%. So moving on to the third quarter and 2025 operating budget, I'm going to go back and forth a little bit. So port-wide, this slide here is 2024 year-to-date, so first 9 months, revenues compared to first 9 months of budget. So port-wide revenues were a little bit lower than we budgeted, but we knew this was coming with the airport and then the construction at the shipping terminal. And then in response to that, we've really tried to scale back some of our variable costs that we can control. And so came in under budget there as well. Looking toward next year, so this is the second slide. So every slide will have these two. So our 2024 budget for port-wide revenues was 31.6 million, and we budgeted 28.6 for 2025. And again, that's the shipping terminal and the airports that we know about. And then costs are right at the same, so a little bit lower than 2024, with inflation, but we're trying to hold down costs. So we're expecting to come in right about the same as 2024. Then digging into each division, so the aviation division, this is the first 9 months of the year compared to budget. We budgeted 6 million in revenues, came in at 5.5 million. And then in response to that, like I mentioned, cutting costs where we can to mitigate some of that. And then looking toward 2025 at the airports, we budgeted 8 million in 24, and we'll budget almost 6 in 25. And then we also looked at cutting costs, but we still have to, pay our salaries. We still have to, market our airport, so we can cut it more than that. And then the marinas, so marinas is, with high occupancy, there's not a lot of change, right? So revenues are going to be what they are, expenses are going to be what they are to run a marina. So that's 2024. 2025 is the same thing. So we're not expecting big changes, just going to run a highly occupied marinas. Let's see. Whoops, getting ahead of myself. Cruise terminal, same thing as the marinas, same level of service, watching our expenses. And then looking toward next year, we're expecting the same service. No changes there at the cruise terminal. At the shipping terminal, we did budget a little optimistically in 2024. But with the construction, we just have this construction period that we are just not going to move cargo. So this is, while it looks like it's unexpected, we knew this was happening. So $1 million so far this year in revenues, and then just a little over $1 million in costs. And that large project is going to span the last half of this year and the first half of next year. So that's why the 2025 budget is also lower, because we're only going to use that facility about half the time. And then lower expenses. Real estate, I sound like a broken record. High occupancy, very predictable revenues, very predictable costs to run those office buildings. And then next year, again, we expect high occupancy, running the same as 2024. Our overhead divisions, these are just, executive, admin, security, those types of things, and they run pretty predictable as well. In response to seeing our revenues start to decline, these divisions did look and tried to see where they could cut costs as well. And so that's why we're budgeting lower costs in 2025. Just looking at a port-wide strategy. Waterfront district, as planned, a lot of those revenues, it's the 1000 F Street warehouse, it's the Portal Container Village, those things. Revenues and expenses, just pretty much as right at budget. And 2025, just looking at a little bit additional activity there, but nothing major. And then all other public, these are the economic development, public access, these types of things. Oh, meetings and events, that's where the revenues come in. So meetings and events revenues have gone a little higher than we had planned, which is great news, people using our facilities. And then 2024 to 2020.
Could you back up a slide, Tamara?
Yes.
let's see, year-to-date and the budget, so this is just showing that there's a lot of expenses still coming in
Or not being spent.
or not being spent.
Or maybe we thought we were going to do maybe some studies, and we're just not going to do them this year. So that could be that too.
So there's potentially some savings.
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Looking toward 2025 budget, so this is a little bit misleading because in the 2024 budget, we had one large one-time item that was $1 million that's not going to move forward into 2025. So these expenses are really very close, comparable to one another. Okay, so that's it for 2024 and 2025 operating. So I'd like to move into capital projects for 2025. You'll see there are not a lot of quantity, but a lot of money, and all of these are grant contingent. So we've been really successful in applying for and receiving, or at least receiving positive feedback on our grants, if we're not awarded quite yet. So construct the Customs and Border Protection Facility at the airports, and that's an FAA grant contingent project. Again, design the runway rehab at the airport, and that's on a cycle, so that needs to be done every however many years that needs to be done. Additional stormwater improvements down at FMIP, and then the portable barge ramp for $1.5 million, that's grant contingent as well. And then the shipping terminal power.
For the Customs and Border Facility.
Yep.
My understanding is we have some dedicated money through the appropriations process. Are we going for more here, or are we just waiting for the budget to be finalized to really be able to identify those congressional funds?
So we haven't officially got the 3.2 million yet. We've had indications we will be getting it, but we have not officially gotten it. And that does, as you pointed out, does not cover the entire project. It's approximately a $15 million project. So we will be applying for funds in the future. We're working with the congressional staff on the best methods of doing that and how they want us to submit those applications in 50% in 2 different submissions, or how they want us to do that. So that's still very much up in the air, but we're confident on the 3.2, but it has not been officially awarded.
So that would allow us to get some of the work underway, some design and.
Well, yeah, and Senator Murray really wants us to get some hard construction done, so we're going to do some planning and then possibly put the floor in. You know, we have partial space is already built out as a shell when we built the terminal expansion, so we want to put a floor in that space and get that a little more complete, start using that for other purposes, and then when we get the balance of the money, we'd convert that back to the international arrivals.
Have we had any indications from our airline partners about their interest in, this is somewhat of a, if you build it, they will come model here, but we are trying to telegraph to our airline partners that this is a potential international arrivals terminal for them to make use of.
Existing and potential future partners have all expressed strong support of this project.
Okay, and then the last 2 that I wanted to mention are the shipping terminal power upgrades and the port-wide energy transition planning. And like I said, all of these are grant contingent. So I want to shift our focus a little bit. When we were going through the 2025 budget process and trying to figure out what projects we need to do, what projects we'd like to do, we took a really hard look at our current 2024 project list and said, which of these projects are unnecessary or just kind of nice to haves? Which ones can we just reduce the scope so that we can focus our resources, focus these resources on these bigger, more impactful projects? So that's what we did. I gave you each a list, and I probably need my readers for this, but there's a list of, I think, 34 projects on the list of 2024 projects that we identified could either reduce the scope or, cancel altogether, or the bottom 3, we didn't budget for them in the appropriate year. So for example, the Fairhaven hand launch vessel, that's been on our books in the current year for a couple of years at least. And we're just not getting that done because of permitting reasons. So we don't think we're going to get there's no way we're going to get the permit in 2025. So let's free up that money for this year for these projects that we really want to do, and put that money in a year that we think we're really going to spend it appropriately. And that, what I've got here is 2027. So it's not being canceled, just proposing that it moves out into the appropriate year so we can use that money for other things. Let's see,
Who's the permit authority on that?
There's multiple that have to weigh in. Army Corps of Engineers, kind of the umbrella of them, but you got Fish and Wildlife, Ecology. I think Department of Natural Resources might be in there as well. So there's a number of them, yes. And of course, the tribes have a major say in that, and that's who we're working with before we even submit the application. As you know, we have an agreement with the tribes to not submit applications for in-water work unless we've discussed it with them first. And right now, we don't have an agreement for these types of projects. We have an agreement to use and maintain and repair our existing in-water structures, but not for new structures. We are working diligently with the tribes to get that agreement in place, and that's correct.
And are those sequential? Once we start one, then you move to the next? Or
No, it's a little of both. There's some going parallel and some are sequential, I believe. I'm not Brian's probably better to comment on that than me if Brian's around. Yep, there we go.
Thanks, Commissioners. Brian Gowan, Director of Environmental and Planning Services. Also, I'm not sure the mics are on. It's just a little bit quiet back here, so I don't know if mics are on. So I didn't hear the total question, so if you could ask that one again.
Oh, permits sequential, or will some run in parallel?
Oh, yeah, so when you're for in-water permitting, yeah, they can be running in parallel. So depending on the project, but I think the earlier question was the permit authority. So for this one, this is the Army Corps of Engineers, and yeah, so you have to go through the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, no marine fisheries, so all the consultation agencies, they're doing their work in parallel as well as like the design. So you're usually submitted around 30% design, then you get feedback from the agencies, and you modify your design, and so it's about a year-long process once you've submitted.
And we can't submit those permits until we have an agreement with the tribes, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. We've been working with them on that. So we've agreed for any new projects that we would work with them, as Rob said, before submitting, either getting a holistic agreement similar to our existing one for maintaining and repairing our existing facilities, or kind of a one-off agreement. But that's one that we have not been able to work with this project on specifically.
And that's, I'm sorry, but that's not a legal requirement or an official requirement from any other agency other than our agreement with the local tribes that we honor that, and we don't do these applications until we have sign off from them.
Good. And just, I think just in way of explanation, the tribes previously had sued the port for any improvements that we made to the port properties for replacement or repair. And all of those permits for all of those replacements required us to have an agreement with them to relieve. I'm paraphrasing, so you may want to tweak my language.
Yeah, they didn't sue. There was no lawsuits involved. It was more they were going to object to permits, or we came to agreement knowing that they had these rights and that we needed to honor those rights.
The same condition exists here.
Absolutely, even more so. Even more so because you're putting new structures in the water, so that's going to impact their usual and custom fishing grounds. The structures that are already in the water already impact their usual and custom fishing grounds.
And you'll notice that this is not the only new construction permit-driven project that's on the budget here as being moved to a later time period.
Right.
The one, item 33 on our
Yep.
list here is the fit-up float. Is it not coming through?
We are using the microphone. We apologize that.
I'll try and speak closer, or maybe our volume could be turned up in the room. Better if I'm closer. So number 33 on our list is another permit-driven budget item
That's
that
right.
we are moving out, both for budgetary and for permitting reasons, it sounds like.
Yes, for 2020 to 2026, and that's the I&J fit-up float.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, just for the public, the, agreement we have with the tribe was a really collaborative project. Brian and his team provided a huge amount of leadership. We worked collaboratively with the tribe, this is in specific Lummi Nation, for several years to get to a mutually beneficial agreement. Today, we are the home port for the entire fishing fleet for the Lummi Nation, the largest commercial fishing fleet in the nation. It has their home port here in Squalicum Harbor. As part of that agreement that we have with the tribe to allow permits to move through for existing infrastructure and maintenance projects that are already in the water. We're trying to work through a similar agreement for new construction projects, and it takes some time. We're working with the sovereign government. They have significant treaty concerns and significant ability to have say on permit decisions. So they're a strategic partner, they're an important partner, and we have to work with them to make sure that we're all at the table and our needs are both being met for this work. So it also takes longer. And that's something we're keep trying to move forward.
Only I were so eloquent. Thank you.
So just by way of housekeeping, this list of proposed changes is part of what I will ask the commission to approve at our next meeting. And
So-
yeah.
I think just we've got people here, so I think what we're hearing is that we're going to review these changes to the budget and look at the budget process, and then it's a perfect opportunity for the public to provide input because we are making decisions on this and we're not voting on the budget today. We're just
Right.
taking input, providing staff with input, and then we'll be readdressing this at our next meeting.
Yes, I'll be asking for approval at the next meeting.
Okay.
I'd be at 4 o'clock on November 19th.
And our comments will be coming throughout the week.
Perfect.
From not only them, but also us as commissioners.
That's perfect, thank you.
Yeah, I didn't look at the back table, but I'm assuming what we're looking at, folks can,
No, I just produced that in final, but I will put that up on the website with the budget.
very good, thank you.
Yeah. Small housekeeping, so the draft budget was published a couple weeks ago on the website, and this project was missed, so I just want to bring up that this project also will be proposed for the final budget. Maintenance software, they just need to replace their ticketing software.
This is a work order system that allows our guys to track their time spent on jobs so we can do job costing and charge it back to the appropriate projects.
Yeah. And then I would like some direction on this. This is our 2025 tax levy. Currently, what I've put in the budget is the 1% increase. So we don't have to levy an increase. We can just take what we took in 2024, the commission desires. But I do have to let the county know when we pass the budget whether or not we will be taking an increase in property taxes. The 1% represents about $80,000 because it's 1% of our $8 million for this year. If we take it, those are the numbers. The property values have continued to go up, and so how do I explain this? The the values go up, and if we don't keep our tax levy at, I'm butchering this one.
I'll jump in here.
Thank you.
Our number actually, our percentage.
goes down.
Our rate goes down.
Our rate goes
because
down.
Correct.
We've seen such a high growth in, fortunately or unfortunately, in the value of homes. And so we are actually lowering our percentage that we are levying, even if we are adding a 1%.
That's correct,
that
because
correct?
the assessed value goes up more than 1%. So just to put this in perspective, commissioners, if we levy this 12 cents per thousand of value, a $600,000 home will pay approximately $72 a year to the port. that 1% increase would represent 72 cents to that home. So a $700,000 home is going to pay $84 a year to the port. A 1% increase on that would be 84 cents. An $800,000 home is going to pay about $96 a year to the port. A 1% increase on that will be 96 cents, and that's per year.
Eloquent again, thank you for saving me. So I'd like to have some discussion on this, on what my direction will be to either keep this in or take it out. The 1% increase.
So Tamara's asking, by the next meeting, we want to present what we think is your preferred avenue for the property taxes. Do we levy a 1% increase, or we keep it flat to what we levied this year, which is approximately $8 million?
Okay. Commissioner Shepherd, would you like to weigh in?
Sure, I'll start us off. I think given the cost environment that we're working under, we certainly are seeing increased costs across the board on all of our services, all of our budgets, all of our bids that are going out. So I think given that climate, we always weigh decisions on tax increases quite thoroughly, but I think there's significant rationale given our cost pressures that we're under and the tight budget climate that we're in. I think we work really hard to try and derive as much as the revenue for this organization, for this level of government, from our projects that we have in place. Our airport, our shipping terminal, our real estate initiatives, our marinas. And the vast amount of our budget is derived from those sources. The portion that we bring in through property taxes is quite minimal. And I think we do a great job in having a revenue positive organization that is only minimally reliant on tax structures. And so that's our continual goal. That's at least my continual goal. And we want to keep investing in these positive revenue streams that decrease the pressure on individual citizens to contribute.
Commissioner Briscoe.
Well, I'm in the same place I've always been with raising taxes. And after what we've seen countywide happen to folks' pockets with the increase in their property values and the taxes they have to pay, I'm not interested in raising any taxes at this point in time.
I went solo on this one last time. I'm inclined to follow Bobby's lead. It's $80,000, and I'm consistent on this, I think. So
I know
my
it's
direction would be no.
$80,000, but it's not enough to put out the fires we've got. And if we can get the terminal more activity there, we're going to more than make that up.
I would hope that we can find commercial ways to raise the money without raising the taxes. My only lament on this, quite frankly, is that all taxes around the county don't operate in the same manner. Equivocally, so when someone says a 1% increase, they see a 1% increase as being a tax increase and not necessarily a leveling of the playing field. But no, I'm still a no on this.
Okay, thank you. And then, like I said earlier, we'll just, we're not approving it today, but I'll take that out for the final budget for your approval next meeting. Just finally, the projected beginning cash, January of 2025, 22.5 million. Sources of cash, uses of cash, that's all our revenues, all our grants, all our projects, all in. Projected ending cash, 13.5. We do keep a healthy reserve, $10 million, and then projected ending available cash of 3.4, which is a very small buffer. And that is,
What was that cash balance we carried forward last year? Do you recall?
It was quite a bit more because we had not started the project at the shipping terminal. We had not started the I&J waterway cleanup. As an example, we burned $6 million or so in the last 2 months, if not more. So yeah, I want to say it was close to 40 million last year. That's
Call that being very high.
Yeah.
So I will bring back the resolutions for approval at our next meeting, and then we'll have another public hearing at our next meeting as well. So if I could get those comments from you as you get them, that would be great, and we'll get a decent budget.
I've got a follow-up I forgot to ask earlier. I wanted to just loop back to the stormwater numbers.
New capital,
No, stormwater
and then,
exceedances.
yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
not our stormwater budget projects, our
Gotcha. Yep.
stormwater monitoring.
Yeah, thank you.
The period, remind me of what period we are looking at for these exceedances. This is post-ABC
So this is
operation.
third quarter. It'll be July, August, and September. And they do include our first fall flush.
But all of that is post-ABC's operation?
When did they leave? I don't know.
14th of June, wasn't
Yeah, they left about mid-June. They're still operating down there, but they're not doing recycling. Actually, they left, I think in September, they're officially out with their lease, but they were just moving equipment out, trucks out, selling stuff off. They haven't actually had a ship leave, Mr. Warder, since June.
Okay. So we may be seeing some residual kind of metals coming through that are popping up for our monitoring.
Brian's going to rescue me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, Commissioner. We're seeing downward trends significantly since ABC operations ceased, but there is still a little bit of residual. The metals that we're seeing there are typical for what you would see there from that process. We've done a lot of sweeping, a lot of cleaning, but like Tamara said, with that first fall flush, you have to sample there intentionally, so you're getting kind of that first flush after months of little or no rain. So those numbers tend to be higher anyway. So, but compared to the data that we had seen from the previous year, these have come down significantly. And we've been tracking that and have some graphs. I think we have those prepared to send to you that kind of show the trends. Just I think we haven't gotten them off to you before this meeting, so we'll send those to you shortly.
But you think we're moving in the right direction on those?
Yep, definitely. And the project that's underway right now that we've been talking about at the BST, that project is actually putting in a new stormwater system that tilts the deck back, collects all that water and puts it through a more robust treatment system. So we've been, once that project's complete, those numbers will improve even more. So we've got a lot of different projects in the works to continue to improve the stormwater conditions.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Brian. Yeah. And Tamara, I just wanted to, I guess this is a discussion for us to have, but I wanted to ask for that item 32, that's the fit-up float, or it's not that's the Fairhaven hand launch vessel dock, which we've talked about it several times. We're working with both two constraints here. We've got the budget constraint and we've got the permitting. I have confidence that we are going to keep working on the permit and be able to be in a position of seeing this permitted in 2026. I think we have some work to do, but I think we have the right partners at the table, and we've been making consistent good progress with our tribal partners. I understand we have the money, it's already put into the cash flow, so it means we've budgeted the funds. Could we put this into a 2026 budget instead of a 2027 so that we are aligning with where we think the permit might actually come and try to, especially for our friends here in the room, not see this project go so far into the future?
Sure. Yeah, so this project, for the 2025 budget, I did take these funds out in my cash flow worksheet, but we could definitely wiggle it back into 2026. Yes, I could make room for that.
So I'm going to throw out a twist here because there is a work window. There's an in-water work window that goes from August to February. So if we were to get the permit, approximately, let's say, really optimistically, we get it next October, you would have to complete the project by February. That's my February of 2026. Otherwise, you're starting back up in August of 2026. So you might be doing the project in two phases there. We'll have to work with the engineering team on how long the project takes. Maybe it can be done between August of 2026 and that first window, but at least it does move it. If the funds are in 2027, you're not even starting in 2026. So I think you're smart to move it to 2026, and then at least we can start the project by August of 2026.
And we don't necessarily have to allocate all of the funding in 2026.
Correct.
We can move part to 26.
Correct. If you're going to be doing that fish window, that's kind of August of 26 to February 2027, that's how we would do it.
Okay. I think that would work for me. It helps keep the project moving. I think it would allow us to start utilizing that initial grant funds that we have to do as much design work as we can between now and then, and to keep working on the permit.
And that's the other thing is the grant funds expire this spring, and we're going to have to go for extension on that. So I'm seeing a lot of support in here for doing this project. We're going to need your support when we go to the RCO letters, et cetera, to get this extension. They're not routine, but I think it's a big enough project, and with enough community support, we should be able to convince the RCO office to extend that grant.
What's the expiration date currently?
Top of my head, I want to say April, May of 2025.
And just one follow-up. Are we certain on the budget numbers? Are they, how much assurance do we have? It seems like all of our in-water projects keep coming in above budget. And how old are these budget numbers? How certain are we that it's really going to come in at the 1.9 level? Or do we need to go and consider any additional budget asks or fundraising opportunities that we may need to get this over the hurdle?
Can we get back to you on that one at the 19th meeting? Because I do think engineering needs to take a look at this one and see that the number is real, or what they think the possible inflationary increase is. I don't think this number is that old, and it has a contingency in there, so it might be a good number, but let me check with engineering, and by the 19th, we'll have an answer for you on that.
That's actually a broader question than just this one project.
Well, most of our projects are done, most of the ROMs are pretty current. So we'll take another look at that, but our rough order of magnitudes are done almost on an annual basis, so they should be current.
That's it.
But we have seen significant inflation on these projects.
Okay, Commissioner Briscoe?
Number 17 and number 23, which is the GP Wharf Marine Use Repairs. I see we've got this in here twice. Is that, I'm not quite following what we're doing over there, that we're going to spend $500,000 or we were going to spend $500,000 on.
That's why it's on this list.
But what I'm saying, I didn't know we had projects there to do that.
Well, just to keep that thing so that you could, you see a ferry tied up there today, you see barges, to keep that there, we had to do some projects. We've cut those projects out. We think it's, there again, we'll get with the engineering team, but it seems to be functional. Colony Wharf is doing a good job of keeping it functional, so that's why we thought there were savings there.
Okay, I was just curious, it was in there twice, so I wasn't.
They were two different things, but yeah.
Okay. And then the other question I had is the board mill development prep. We don't need that any longer?
I don't believe we do. I think that group is making progress. The team met with them yesterday. They are going through their process, making changes, making it economically viable for them. But I believe that our work there is done. We did do some work on the board mill building to clean it up and get it to a presentable state, but I believe that work is complete.
So this list here is showing the remaining budget, just because I have zero new budget in the far right column. That doesn't mean more money wasn't spent in the past. This is just what's left.
Right. No,
Yeah.
Okay. I was just making sure we weren't chopping it off and we didn't have enough. So.
No.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Great job as always, Tamara.
Thank you.
And I think, just don't forget me.
Oh,
I really do want to sit down maybe sometime this week and go through necessary versus unnecessary, go through some of these line items and get the line of thought on the importance of that. And then also have a discussion about other projects that may or may not be in this, that we can have a deeper dive. So for the two of you, just expect a call from me sometime this week, and we'll wander through that, because I do think that, and also ways to enhance revenue. I mean, that's a discussion I think we need to constantly be having. All right, with that, I'm going to close the public sector meeting and go to the public hearing portion of our program. This public hearing is on the strategic budget. Anybody in the audience, those of you that have signed up, I'm going to call you by name. Feel free to come to the microphone and state your piece, having heard what you have just heard. And then we will close this public hearing portion, reopen the business, and finish our meeting. So, meeting is now adjourned. They tell me I got to do that. And then we're going to open the public hearing, and we're going to start with Jim Johansson. Oh, we met in the bathroom.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Elaborate, okay?
We don't want to talk about that, right? Jim Johansson, I'm president of the board of directors of the Community Boating Center in Fairhaven, also a coastal engineering geologist. I work on waterfront projects professionally. I have for 30 years or more. So speaking about the Fairhaven dock, which is a floating breakwater serving as a dock, so it's intended to serve two functions down there at the Fairhaven boat ramp. One, more than double the dock capacity, and two, be a breakwater on the outside or the west of the existing ramp and two ramps and dock. It's the only project that we've heard discussed tonight that really deals with public access. We've heard about the airport, we've heard about the shipping terminal, we've heard about cleanups, stormwater, marina, all those things. Of course, the marina provides public access to a select few. The airport, similarly. So this is the only one that provides public access to anybody and everybody. It's way beyond capacity right now down there. There's a lot of safety issues. There's a bunch of maintenance issues. Boats are crossing all the time. We have a lot of kids programs. Programs have grown fourfold since COVID at the boating center, and then other unaffiliated programs have grown a lot. Crabbing is more popular than ever. We've heard some progress here of talking about, instead of 2027, slating penciled in 2026. Nothing can be built until the permits are applied for. I know you've spoken already, and we've communicated about the situation with the Lummi tribe. This is obviously an agreement the port has reached with the tribe. The tribe does not permit anything, but you've explained there's an agreement. I would like to know that there's money in place for this coming year to try to move the project into permitting outside of the negotiations, which we hope are wrap up. But there needs to be more work to get it into permitting. Speaking with the consultants, I don't believe it's ready to submit tomorrow. So we want to ensure there's money to keep it moving, get it into permitting, which will take a good year as spoken. And then hopefully 2026, we would love to see money at least allocated for that time, which the port promised to do several years ago. So we don't want to see that money disappear. I believe the engineering work was from June 2022. It was ready for permitting at that time, so it's been sitting for well over 2 years. And I believe the cost estimates from the same time period, so it certainly should be revisited. This has a lot of adaptive elements in this design. To get people into boats that cannot walk, cannot function like everybody else, to provide protected water, like I said, with the breakwater, to provide a safer place away from the motorboat launching. As you know, the boat ramp on the inside by the tracks is sedimenting in. There's eelgrass moving in. It's pretty hard to use that ramp at low tide, so it's already a limited facility. And lastly, the grant of $500,000. You already mentioned needs an extension. We'd be happy to help. We helped provide a lot of information to get that grant from CBC with Mike Hogan and his team. I think they're going to want to see some progress, and I think more grant money is available, so I think that should be pursued. Maybe your budget can actually come down. Thank you very much.
A couple clarifications. First of all, I agree we should pursue more grant money. That makes it a lot easier for us, and hopefully they'll cover any increases in the project. The tribes have the ability to block the project. We don't need their permission to apply for the project. So when I was speaking earlier about not needing their permission, it was not to apply for the project. We can apply for any project we want, but the Corps of Engineers is going to contact the tribe and say, are you okay with this? So if we don't honor our agreement with them that we don't apply for a project without going for them first, I'm pretty confident they'll block the project. That's why we don't apply for them.
Hopefully the negotiations can
Yeah.
Okay, Ray Edwards.
I think I can do that. Oh, I've got a pretty good, can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. I want to thank you for having public hearing. I really would like to see that Fairhaven dock move ahead. Thank you for thinking of 2026 instead of 2027. Since COVID, I'm on the water frequently, and I have seen so much increase in that area. And I think it's a really healthy outlet for people. And I know it's a small part of your giant budget, but thank you for considering moving it forward as much as you can. And please keep on that.
Thank you. Deb Dempsey. Well done.
Good afternoon. I'm Deb Dempsey, one of the co-founders of the Community Boating Center, and presently serve on the board of directors as treasurer. I'm going to back us up a little bit and give you a little chronological history lesson here. July 2007, 17 years ago, Mary Durbrow stood right here. She's a co-founder of the Community Boating Center, and we were requesting the lease for the Fairhaven Boat Works be turned over to a nonprofit community boating center. The vote was 2-1. One commissioner was adamant that nonprofits do not belong on Bellingham Bay's waterfront. And I think, as you all can recently attest, by witnessing what just came into your email inboxes and your voicemail, that the boating center is a beloved public asset. Our success continues to outpace our physical confines, especially now around an adequate dock facility. The CBC was successful in recently completing a $1 million capital campaign resulting in the construction of the 2-story wheelhouse building. And now the port and the CBC must continue to work toward the ultimate goal of providing access for all peoples of all abilities. The CBC's mission. The ADA population deserves the same access. It is long overdue. November 2008, what the heck? Fairhaven Comprehensive Scheme of Harbor Improvement, inclusive of a new boat ramp, new boat hoist. The need for an ADA dock structure somewhere on Bellingham Bay was acknowledged then. June 2021, that's 3.5 years ago. What the heck? You commissioners committed to a $1.8 million Fairhaven public dock project, greatly increasing safety. It's combat launching down there during crab season. And facilitating programs finally bringing to Whatcom County ADA-capable access to the water. 2021, the Port of Bellingham partnered with the Boating Center for a $500,000 RCO state grant, awarded upon project commitment June 2021, bringing the project cost down to $1.3 million. The Port of Bellingham's apparent recent realization of the 2024 budget shortfall was not shared with the Boating Center, nor was the 2025 draft budget withdrawing funding for the Fairhaven public dock. What the heck? Granted, we do not understand the complexities around tribal negotiations for on-water construction. And with giving existing structures priority over new structures, resulting in a great public access loss. After realization of the need 16 years ago, which quite frankly is a whole generation, that's a long time not to provide water access for all peoples of all abilities. What the heck? What can we collectively do to salvage what has been done thus far? There's a permit-ready design. People are energized to make such access a reality. Please save that $500,000 grant. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Brian Rust.
Hi, folks. My name is Brian Russ. I'm the executive director of the Community Boating Center. And I think last time I was in this room, it was 2021, and you had all just voted to approve the funding for this project. And I want to speak a little bit to what it is like to operationalize the Community Boating Center these days, because that is my job. And we have grown, I think somebody said fourfold, it's 600%. And that's just since 2021. Obviously, 2020 is not a year most should compare to. So 600% growth. And let me talk to you a little bit about what that looks like operating what is ultimately last year was 25,000 participant hours out of a 2-lane public boat ramp. So think about 25,000 participant hours. That's 10 people doing a 100-hour program is 1,000 hours. So it's a lot of time. And it's a lot of people coming and going and a lot of boats being launched. And it's been my work since I've been there in 2020 to open the aperture of who gets to participate. And I think we've done a good job at that. And at this point, we're serving programs for a wide spectrum of people with varying needs. And the job really is all about breaking down barriers. Is it not? There's a lot of barriers to participation when it comes to being on boats. It takes a certain type of person, a certain socioeconomic class, certain skin color. There's all sorts of socioeconomic and otherwise barriers to what it is to be on the water. And I get to see our work as a mechanism of therapeutic recreation and as a way of actually changing people's lives. So when this season we bought our first adaptive sailboat. So this is a watercraft designed to take a person from their wheelchair onto the water. And what I've been doing myself for the last 3 months has been physically working with 4 or 5 other people to help transfer this person out of their chair and into the boat, and then support that boat launched on the ramp. That is not a sustainable or potentially even safe practice for this kind of work. They make personnel lifts and transfer hoists. We are ready to buy one. We just don't have anywhere to put it. And all of this vision has been part of this project that we worked hard to pull support for in 2020 when I first got this job, and we are so ready for this work. So I think in many ways we've done our part as a community to show up for what this organization and what this work can be and how it can serve the people in our world, and we really need some help with the resources. The other thought that came to mind today when sitting here listening about this was that we've got some sort of a self-imposed barrier with the permit. It seems like the federal government designed a system where the tribes get to weigh in on project by project, and y'all have done something to where that's not possible. And so I'm not sure what the tribe thinks about this project, but the fact that we're just not even talking to them about the benefit that this project could have in the community for their community, because we do host programs with both of our local tribes. So maybe we should open up the conversation a little bit. Thank you.
Well, we've been talking for about 3 years with the tribes about trying to get, it isn't just this project, it's any new project on the waterfront. And what happens when you apply for that permit, as Rob said, it goes to the Corps of Engineers. The Corps of Engineers sends it out to many different agencies, and the tribe is one of those that gets the thing. And if they will most likely deny it. But, well, okay. So we can send the stuff out and get it denied, break the agreement we have with them, and then we're going to be really backed up. It's not easy to try and figure this stuff out. There's no attitude up here that we don't want to do that project over there. We do. I wish it was done by now. I wish we'd have had this agreement 2.5 years ago, because we have a lot of things we wanted to do. But, I mean, Brian can tell us how many times we've been meeting with our tribal partners out there per year to try and get this done. And we have given and given and given, and we're not there yet. We're very, very close, but we're not there. So you can't just push this stuff through. It's government at its best, okay? I don't like it. I'm not that kind of guy. I like to get stuff done.
Brian, I heard you. We have not considered taking a scalpel to this, and I heard you loud and clear. That was a great idea. No, your argument's good, and we've heard it, and we need a scalpel, and I heard it loud and clear. So thank you for your input. Yeah. Thank you. Deborah O'Connor? Blaine Pedlo? Is it Pedlo? Welcome to the port.
Thanks, Commissioners. My name is Blaine Pedlo. I'm both an avid small boat sailor and volunteer at the CBC, actually former executive director of the CBC a long time ago. But I also am one of the senior leaders of U.S. Sailing, which is the national governing body of the sport of sailing in the United States. We run the Olympic program, we run community sailing programs across the country, and we convene, give or take, 50,000 members and just over 1,000 organizational members across the country. What I wanted to do is, first of all, give you the slightest bit of kudos. You're on the right track. This is a big step forward. Right now, the Pacific Northwest is a bit of a, to use a bad term, a desert when it comes to both adaptive sailing and ADA compliant boating. Some of that is the challenges that exist around tides here, but also we've been slow to adapt those steps. The other thing that's steadily happening, and I want to report this is a shift that we are seeing across the sport, is a shift from sailing towards, and this is sailing, but I think this also has analogs within kayaking and all boating, is that we're shifting towards wind sports and away from sailing and yachting conventionally. And I think that if you were to look at the activity that's happening at the boating center compared with what percentage of activity is happening in Squalicum Harbor or what percentage of the boats are used annually, you would look at this is a vibrant hub happening here and a huge amount of investment worthy over there in supporting people's access to the water versus a place to store a boat. And those are two very, very different things. The other thing that I want to emphasize is the amount of funding that can be unlocked through adaptive sailing abilities in Bellingham Bay, like they're as straight as not. This is a place that we need to be unlocking that. And the challenge that I have is to, I bring some really challenging stakeholders together in my job. I sympathize with the role that you all are playing right now. One of the things that I think that we should do is consider using this project as one of the carrots to begin conversations or to further conversations with the indigenous people, with the tribes. I think that this is a project that is really reflective of their legacy and their history on Bellingham Bay, and one where we have a lot of potential overlap. And it's a way that we can potentially work and start that dialogue. I think that engaging volunteers and passionate people that are involved with the CBC and other organizations is a way of bringing more stakeholders to the table, which is a way of bringing more people together. And so I challenge us to not have those conversations with the tribe and measure them in years, but instead measure them in weeks. Thank you all.
Thank you for the rare compliment.
It was a backhanded one.
That did not escape me, but I'll take anything I can get at this point. Christine Elliott.
Hello, thank you for having us. I am a avid paddler with the Bellingham Bay Outrigger Canoe Club and also on the board at the Community Boating Center. So I did want to add, I think so many people took most of my points that I wanted to make, but I think that's wonderful. I think our passion for the water and for opening access to everyone has been heard. I did want to add, though, I think it gets a little personal, and I think that's the piece I did want to add to you. So in my paddling community, we have a handful of people that have been struggling with mobility issues, and those mobility issues continue to decline. At first it was someone needs an extra hand to get in a boat. Then it was someone needs to use walking sticks, now a walker. And the day will come when it's a wheelchair and they're completely and utterly out of luck, right? So I think that while, we're talking about the years and the weeks and the quarters and all of those things that go by, I think for some people, they're going to lose their access entirely. And I hope that you can keep those people in mind as you consider how long it takes to get things done. And with the passion that you see in this room, please move that forward as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Lindsay? I'd like to pronounce your last name, but I can't. O-H-N, no? Lindsay? Is there a Lindsay? Megan Kenny? Oh, I knew we were going to hear from him.
Good evening. Thanks for allowing us time to speak. So originally this morning, this is my son. I'm Megan Kenny. I'm a parent of a sailor from the CBC. This is Tebe. And this morning he was really adamant that he wanted to say something, but now seeing this group of people, he's gotten a little shy. Did you want to say something? Okay. So I quickly just jotted down some notes. I know you've heard a lot from the CBC community, and so we're excited about that. And then recognizing the unique and respectful relationship the port has with the Lummi Nation and how that does impact that project, we just want to take a few seconds longer to emphasize the importance of the CBC to our family. So both of my kids started sailing at the CBC and have grown up in the program. My one son is now a freshman at Seahome, and he has continued sailing with the Whatcom Youth Sailing Team, so he sails for Seahome, which is pretty exciting. Tebe is in 5th grade at Lowell, and now he is also sailing and has found a lot of, I would say, benefits in joining this program. I was going to say a little bit of a self-awareness, self-confidence, but notwithstanding this moment today. But yeah, we just wanted to emphasize that we hope that moving forward, this project can move forward as quickly as possible, because seeing those kids interact during the days when it's really busy on the boat ramp can be, as a parent, very terrifying. So, I mean, even though the CBC does a wonderful job of keeping everyone safe, you never know what's going to happen. So this hand launch would be a really, really great community asset, the same way the CBC has been. So thank you so much. Do you want to say anything? No? Okay. Oh. Tebe?
Tebe, are you on the water a lot?
Yeah.
Do you like it? Would you go every
Yeah.
day if you could?
Yeah.
Would you take me at some point? Teach me?
Don't push it.
Is that all you have to say? Do you want to say?
Yeah.
Do you want us to move forward on this?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
George Dyson.
Yes, George Dyson, and everybody else said everything I would say. I would just say I wear two hats. I'm myself personally, and I'm also a director of the Working Waterfront Coalition. And usually I have to separate those hats, but in this case, the case of the dock in Fairhaven, I'm speaking for both personally and for the Working Waterfront Coalition, who, just in case people don't realize, we support all users on the waterfront, not just industry. And I've been coming before you guys and your predecessors for, it's 36 years now, advocating for small craft docks, and this is a piece of cake. It's got everything is there, and I thank you for at least pushing to keep it 2026. That's better than 2027. Anything you can do to keep this moving forward, and I agree. I think this should be seen as an enabler of moving the comprehensive relationship with the First Nations forward rather than viewing that as an obstacle. So thank you for listening to us.
Anyone else wishing to speak before the commission? Mr. Cooper? Nice socks, by the way.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, Craig Cooper. I'm a parent of 2 kids that use the boating center. I'm also on the board at the boating center and all. You talked about how the negotiations went for existing projects and how you have an agreement in place about that. And then you said you're kind of taking it, to paraphrase, you're kind of taking it another step of new projects. And what I was kind of curious about and what I didn't hear is, what is the status of those conversations? How long did the first agreement take? And where are we at with this agreement? Thank you.
Great question.
Yeah, the first project took several years, and actually there's 3 agreements. There's the first, which established a framework, and the framework established how we were going to create these agreements and what was priorities, and that was largely driven by the Lummi Nation. It probably took 2 to 3 years to get to that for the existing structures agreement, and we've been at this one for probably 2 years now. I think we're pretty close. We actually have a draft agreement, and we are scheduled to meet our attorneys and their attorneys to go over that draft agreement. It has taken 2 years to get to that draft agreement, but again, I think we're pretty close.
And I think the only thing I would add to that is that they are fragile at times and unpredictable at times. And we don't want to do anything here or say anything here that would jeopardize those discussions. Anyone else wishing to speak? Oh. You come to the community.
Yeah, one more time. I just can't get enough. Captain Ryan Davis. I'll leave it with in terms of my partner's father's was the city planner for South Portland, Maine for 30 years. And he was able to get some ADA access and docking with that. He didn't have to deal with the nuances of the indigenous nations, but he's an ally and that kind of thing. But also, speaking in terms of the Lummi Nation, I've done my own form of outreach in terms of getting them aboard the Moku High, and the biggest, I just transited came into ownership another sailing vessel and transited around the entire Lummi Nation 2 days ago prior to the storms. And I stopped at the fuel dock to drop off my employee, my swab. He's gone now to go do work. But stopping there, I just had a conversation with them at the gas station, and it's just, they're very sea-focused people. They're very passionate about that. And ADA accessibility can strike any of us, regardless of where you are and what nation you come from. So in terms of bridging that gap and relaying that, I'm not sure in terms of discussion, but just think that's straightforward. And thank you for all your work you're doing. Regardless, I understand when there's legal counsel at other sides of the table, that kind of tends to slow things down, but you'll get there. Hope we get there faster, but thank you.
Dan, I see that you were signed up before, so can I strike you from the list?
Hey, good evening, commissioners. Yeah, so I'd meant to sign up for the wrong sheet. My bad. Dan Tucker with the Whatcom Working Waterfront Coalition. First, I want to thank everybody here that turned out for speaking your heart, also keeping it very civil and keeping it very professional. That really helps us get our message across. But I also wanted to echo a lot of that sentiment that this will be a goodwill project. And the grant funding is available, so whatever we can do as a community to help you in preserving that grant money moving forward, the Whatcom Working Waterfront Coalition also wholeheartedly supports this project for its ADA accessibility. And below a lot of our literature, we have the tagline, "A waterfront that works for all." And this is a very solid embodiment of that sentiment, and we want to see it happen. You mentioned letters of support for RCO to extend that funding. Please keep me informed. When you guys need those, we will write them. And we'll get some other folks to tag along with us in doing so. So I really appreciate you guys being willing to reevaluate that and take a harder look at it. Also opening up the conversation, as Brian said, using a scalpel to kind of dissect that a little bit. It would be awesome to be able to have status updates on this project come to us as well. So in the future, if there are changes to the status of the draft agreement that you're meeting on or something like that, feel free to ping us, feel free to ping Brian. We'll help get the message out because we've got pretty good networks. So just wanted to say we do support that project, and we appreciate so much you guys listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, so at this time, I'm going to close the public hearing and reopen the commission meeting for today. And we are back in regular session for the Port of Bellingham. I am going to essentially ask for a quick recess. For anyone that wants to go, you may go. I think we'll reconvene here in about 20 minutes after 5 and just take a small break. And thank you everyone for coming.
I
Reconvene the Port Commission meeting for Tuesday, November 5th, 2024. And we are on to our presentations. We have our SIP presentation. We don't see you very often.
We don't. Evening. I'm Sam Ship. I'm the engineer.
Is that on purpose?
No, I'd like to come out more often. And,
Would you?
Well, we're very busy.
Yeah.
So, but yes, once again, I'm Sam Ship. I'm the engineering program manager. And I'll be presenting on the 2024 capital project and give some highlights. What I'd like to do first is we have the project managers and project engineers that are sitting over on your left. I just like to acknowledge the amount of work they do. I appreciate them coming down tonight, and I just want to make sure you understand who they are and the people that are completing the projects.
Is there a term for a group of engineers? Is it a gaggle of engineers? Is it what is it? Come on.
Yeah.
Plethora?
Sure, we'll take plethora. That's a good one. Also, okay, to start presentation. So we have about 188 active capital projects right now, which is quite a bit. Through the month of October, we spent $21 million. And so that's money going out for design, for construction, and so forth. And we project by the end of the year, we'll be over 30 million. To give it a reference point, a typical year for the port is between 18 and 20 million. The reason these numbers are so large is that we do have some very large projects that are underway right now. So we spend these funds in two different ways for the most part. We have professional services contracts, and that's for design services, evaluations of our assets, planning purposes, and we did 62 of those so far this year. And then we also do the public work contracts. That's the actual construction of building of infrastructure. So we're at 72 so far this year. And that's going up every day because we have contracts coming through all the time. Another aspect or attribute that this group works on are the ROMs, the rough order of magnitudes. So in the middle of summertime, what happens is that the port's project sponsors comes up with projects that they want to look at for the next year. And they give the engineering group a list, or basically a ROM, and we go out and we evaluate what that project is, and we do a good estimate and put together the numbers associated with that project. And so that's in the summertime, and then at the end of the year, or budget season, right about now, they use those ROMs, and that helps build the 2025 budget. So we're running the numbers and the estimates to get those numbers together for the capital improvement program. So this year we did 56 of those. And we have a new thing this year. We're doing job order contracting, or we're calling it JOC. What happens, that's a new process. And so what we're doing is that we're working with two contractors that are pre-approved. And this is more of an efficient program. Rather than the traditional design bid build, we take the project sponsor and we go out on the field and meet with the contractor and one of the engineers, and we discuss the project. And so what happens is that we fill out the PIF that describes the project, we have the meeting, and it's a lot more collaborative. So we get a good impression of what the contractor thinks can be done, and we make sure that the sponsor gets what the end product they want, and then the engineer makes sure that we can work it together. And so after we go through the first site meeting, the contractor then gives us a proposal for the cost. So it's a very more efficient process. And we've just started this beginning in August of this year. So we've had 10 come through for evaluation, and then we actually have our first one under construction right now. So I'm going to talk about some highlights, some individual projects.
What's the one that's under construction?
The Bellwether Way one right now is Pete's here. He's doing that one. So we're with Dawson Construction, and we're doing the sidewalk repair. So the JOC projects are pretty well, we target a certain type of project, and we want to make sure it stays around, well, it has to stay under the $400,000. And the key element is that we don't want projects with a high permit load on them. So if there's a substantial permit, we stay away from that type of project. So with a sidewalk repair, we can get that done pretty quickly. So,
okay.
So I'm going to talk about some individual projects to highlight. The first one is the Blaine M-Dock up in Blaine. The picture on the left is the interior of the M-Dock area. And the picture on the right is there's three buildings there. The one building, or a third of that major structure that's adjacent to the dock, is what we're going to be working on. So the concept here is we'll remove that and put some new floats in. What's unique about this project is this is the first time we're going to have our operational crews build the floats. And so we've already ordered the materials. We've had it delivered to the Marine Drive Industrial Park. And the operation crews are working on putting those floats together. When they've completed that, they'll take them up to Blaine, and we're going out for contract right now to have a contractor help put them in. So the contractor will move the existing part of the structure, and then they'll help put the new floats in, drive the new piles, and then tie it into that existing dock. Another interesting project we did this year is out in the Bellingham International Airport. What's interesting about this or challenging is that this is working on an active runway. And so scheduling activities out there can be really challenging. So we're usually out there about 1 in the morning and trying to get off that runway about 4. But we have security there the whole time just in case there's a need for a plane to come in and land. We have to make sure we remove the operation. So this is a kind of a challenging project. This has happened in 2024 and we completed the work relatively quickly and it turned out really well. Another project out at the airport, we did some solar projects. So this is a solar installation on top of the terminal building. This works out really well. This is part of our climate action strategy. And so this is a 100 kilowatt system. So what happened here is that this is installed and we're looking later this month to hook it in, do the interconnect with Puget Sound Energy, and this will be up and running. So this was another great project. So I'm going to move south down into the I&J Waterway. So this is mostly a cleanup project. I just want to take note, this is over $22 million for this project. That's a large sum of money and 50% of it is funded by ecology. But the bulk of the work, this is the old Bornstein seafood site. So we're basically removing some of the infrastructure. We're putting new king piles in for the bulkhead and putting some sheep piles in as well. So this project's moving along really well. We're looking to have this completed in 2025. Another large, second quarter is our target. So this is another large project. This actually is almost 2 projects put into one. This is the Bellingham shipping terminal. So we have 2 parts of it. There's the dredging aspect of it, which is just under $9 million, and then we have the infrastructure replacement part of it, which is over the $20 million. We do have a $7 million MERID grant associated with this project. So you can see there's like a section cut out of the dock, and that's basically going to be our new high lift or heavy lift area. So we're driving new piles that'll be able to sustain a heavier weight. And the intent of this project is that we can get our large crane out there on the heavy lift section and help unload vessels. So we're moving relatively well on this project. And so we're hoping we'll have this done in 2025, and then we'll have more projects out there at the BSD to improve the capabilities of that asset, get some more ships in and unload more cargo. This is another really interesting project. We're working with the City of Bellingham. This is with regard to the quiet zone. So this is at the Seaview right next to the Fairhaven Marine Industrial Park. And so we're working with Burlington Northern and the Federal Rail Administration to come up with a solution to address this crossing. This is the last crossing in the Fairhaven quiet zone that we're working on. And we've come up with a solution. We'll have the necessary infrastructure coming in basically the 1st or 2nd week of January, and we'll get that installed. Is there a question or?
My chair squeaked.
No, I'm sorry.
I've got one. You said the funding is 100%. That's 100% port.
Yeah, 100% port. And we're going to come in well under budget on this one because we came up with a really good solution that the Burlington Northern will work with us on and the FRA approved.
Would you like to share?
Yeah, now we're curious.
Now we're curious. It's called a Carmana, believe it or not.
Wait. A what? Can we get one of you guys that speaks in English? Not an engineer.
So it's a basic, to simplify it, it's going to be a sign with a flashing light that has power to it. And so we'll have a solar system, a solar panel that helps power it. And then we'll also have basically an electric power run we can put in if we need to later. But it's basically, it's a glorified flashing sign. But it has been approved by Burlington Northern and the Federal Rail Administration. Because there was a lot of other options we could have looked at that would have taken a significant amount of time and money to put in.
And a flashing sign is enough of a barrier?
Well, it's not a traffic area.
It's, yeah, there's about 4 or 5 crossings per week. So, and it's yeah.
And what are we saving by doing it? Rough.
Off the top of my head, well, I don't know, probably $30,000 to $40,000, I think, for the most part. So we'll have this up and running. What will happen is that once we do the installation, we have to send a letter with the City of Bellingham, who is the actual applicant, to the Federal Rail Administration, and then we'll get the certification that this is a quiet zone. So the quiet zone is basically it's an establishment of an area where the engineers that drive the trains aren't necessarily supposed to blow their horn. They still have the ability to, but it's basically notification that this area has safety improvements. That doesn't necessarily mean they need to blow their horn as much as they do. But this will get a lot of good public feedback from the neighbors when we get this complete.
None of them are quiet till they're all quiet. So all 3 have to be certified by the Railroad Administration in order to have a quiet zone.
So that letter
And there's actually 5 crossings, 3 are ours and 2 are the cities. So
Finish the other
four,
two.
4 of them are certified and ready to go and been signed off on.
The last one,
And this
correct.
is the last one.
And so, yeah, once this is complete, the city will send a letter and we'll get the quiet zone designation.
And
for
are the
Fairhaven.
cities completed?
Yeah.
As you know, there's 2 zones. In the south zone, the cities 2 are, but there's many city crossings in the north zone that are not.
So then we'll have completely cleared out that south zone?
Correct,
of-
and the south zone will be a quiet zone, separate from the north zone.
Where's that north zone start?
Right after Boulevard Park, so, basically Wharf Street and then our shipping terminal are the first ones on the north side.
Yeah, so the city's working on the Pike Street crossing. We're working with them. They have a design staff working on it. They have a consultant on board. So we're getting some information back and forth. The next project is the Fairhaven Marine Industrial Park. What we installed here was basically a berm to address the flooding issues and sea level rise and high tides. And so that project was completed, and then we're also doing some stormwater improvements on this site, and then we've paved it to basically make the stormwater run to the new improvements. This is hopefully the first step of many more improvements for the Fairhaven Marine Industrial Park. It's a great asset, but this is one of our first steps.
How high did you raise it?
Oh, I think we were targeting an elevation about 16 feet. So I'm not sure, I'd have to go back and look for the actual increase amount. Another project that was really interesting that we're working on this year is the Alaska Ferry Terminal. What was really challenging about this is we're working on a facility that the ferry is actually using at the same time. So we had to really be creative on some of the schedules. We worked a lot of Sundays and odd days during the week. One of the other things that came up on this one is while we were working on the project, we found some of the assets or the infrastructure was in worse shape than we anticipated. So we worked with the contractor, who was very helpful, and we came up with some really good solutions and came in well under budget still on this project. But we'll have this pretty much wrapped up the first quarter of 2025.
Who was the contractor on that one?
Ballard Construction out of down south, but they did a great job, so. And the last thing that we want to be part of is we're really looking forward to the rail extension that we're going to see here down at the BST. So we're excited about that. That's great money, the $17.9 million. We're really interested, and we can't wait for this to come our way. That's it. Any questions? Anything I can address?
Commissioner Briscoe?
No, thank you. It was good. Actually, Fairhaven looks great. I was down there yesterday. I drove through there for another reason other than looking at that, but it looks good. It's nice to see the ground above the water for a change.
Yeah, they did a very good job on the paving on that one. That turned out really well. They had a nice weather
And
window.
I'm assuming they're going to go over towards the building corner, the same level? Or are you going to
Yes,
leave that big dip there?
Right. Well, there's undulations to make sure the stormwater flows to the necessary facilities, the storm drains. So I'd have to talk about exactly what corner of the building you're referring to.
Well, to the south of the part that was just done.
Okay.
Towards there's a building right in the corner. You can go around. It's a shallow driveway that goes out. That dip down in there, is that going to be?
We're done paving for this year, so we'll have to address it in the next phase.
Okay. Well, that's good. At least the boatyard won't be a duck pond.
That's correct, yeah. And we have had some rain since we finished paving, so it's operating correctly.
Thank you.
Mr. Shepherd?
Lots of good information, and just looking to the next budget, we've got some major projects coming in, and so it's understandable. Nobody ever likes seeing projects moved out, but we have only so much staff, and we have only so much bandwidth, and your department is certainly one of those pinch points. And we've been really successful in getting some federal support on some extremely impactful projects, and so we've got to see this as it's ultimately a good news story. Even if we are putting some projects into the future, we are doing some really impactful work, and it's because of some strong support from our federal partners that is driving these major projects coming in. So we're going to keep getting to these other projects, but we do have a finite amount of staff resource here.
Yes.
So thanks for your work.
Thank you.
And I just noticed that most of these are coming to fruition, going to be completed by 2025.
That's the target for these phases of the project.
Yeah.
So we're looking at possible future phases. Yes.
Okay,
We're in the business of getting projects complete. That's what we're here for, so.
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, annual economic development. Tyler Schroeder.
Yeah, good evening, Commission. Tyler Schroeder, Economic Development Director. Excited to be in front of you tonight. Sam is the one that gets the projects done. We're the ones that think about the projects in the long term and the vision of the community and where the port is. So I won't have as many deliverables as what Sam has with the millions of dollars into the engineering and the projects. But I do want to walk through what the Economic Development Department does. There's been a lot of transition in the department over the last year or so. I'm excited about joining the team the last 6 months. It's been a great opportunity. We've just recently also had a transition with Gina Stark leaving. But John Mitchner and Corey Olson and myself are ready to move that group forward and continue a lot of the good work that we have in front of us. This update is from last year, the 23 update, 22-23 update. And I'll talk a little bit about where we're going as we move forward. So regional economic partnership, as the commission knows, this is a partnership with the port, the county, the city of Bellingham, and Department of Commerce with some grant funds. We lay out a comprehensive economic development strategy. It's a strategy that's through 2022 through 26. So excited about the opportunity next year to build into the next SEDS as we move forward from 26 through 31. The SEDS document is really informed by broad stakeholders and approved through the county council. Last time that was done in 2021. The Regional Economic Partnership, really the Economic Development Division of the port is here to take the mission forward, which is sustainable economic development. When you acknowledge that it's a resilient regional economy that's dynamic and inclusive business community, looks towards businesses that have a living wage job, provide equity, and kind of an overall environmental development ecosystem, physical, social, and the infrastructure that's needed to support it. It's not just the Port of Bellingham's properties, it's a county-wide group that we're working with businesses throughout the county to help expand, grow, and see their benefit associated with it. A lot of the good work is done through partnerships. Team Wacom, which is a number of different entities in the community, from the Community Foundation to SBDC, the Small Business Development, to the Downtown Partnership, which we'll talk a little bit later tonight. The universities, the technical schools, and a number of different organizations help bring this network forward. In the SEDS document, there's 6 goals. Those 6, base economy, infrastructure, skilled workforce, dynamic relationships in the region, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and economic resiliency and recovery efforts, which being November, it's a good time to think about that. Because back in 21, 22 with the floods, back in 20 with COVID, there's a lot of work that has to happen with the businesses throughout our community to help strengthen them and move forward with some grants. When you think about those 6 different goals in the SEDS, you go through a number of different business development, recruitment, business retention, expansion, startups, export, foreign investment assistance. Those are for tenants of the port, and those are for businesses within Whatcom County and the 7 cities that are associated with it. Looking into infrastructure, how do we improve the physical, economic, and social infrastructure to support the growth of existing businesses, as well as start to recruit them? Commission just passed a contract last commission meeting to focus on infrastructure and employment projections. That's squarely in goal 2 of the SEDS list. Workforce and employee needs, working with Bellingham Technical College, with the apprenticeship programs, with the others associated with workforce. Partnership in Canada, a lot of work going north of the border to try to see which businesses are north of the border that would have a strategic advantage locating here, if the properties are available and where it goes, but also looking throughout the region as it relates to Skagit and Snohomish and others to try to be ready for business recruitment, as well as partnerships as we do business retention. The DEI work that we do, a lot of that recently has been through broadband, as well as some additional stakeholder discussions, and then resiliency. So I'll break those down a little bit more, each one of them. So business development highlights. Remember, this is kind of an outline of 2023. Corvus Energy, a tenant of the port, recruitment of that company to be located here. A lot of that work was with the real estate department as well at the port. Elliott Smith had a lot to do with that. And then also identifying ways to establish foreign trade zone activation for Corvus. We also had a hand in the attraction of Vicinity Motors, a Canadian company that was now in Ferndale, and the foreign trade zone activation. And then Tidal Vision in the Iron Gate location. The Port of Bellingham established a revolving loan fund for them, helped the expansion of that, and then also consultation over the last many years. Overall, in this time frame, we've helped about 79 different businesses with retention and expansion services. Just to put a little highlight, talk a little bit about the wins of this situation. Tidal Vision, and a lot of credit goes to John Mitchner of our team, has been working with them since about 2017. Economic development work is a long-lasting work. It's about building relationships, identifying what the businesses need to grow and to expand, and being there to be able to provide the stakeholder relationships that those businesses need. So in 2017, Tidal Vision relocated. We're about 10 employees, 5,000 square feet, and that was based off of a revolving loan fund that we were able to provide them as well, a portion of that. 2018, they moved to a 6,000 square foot facility and for their R&D. 2019 into a 50,000 square foot facility for production. And now they've expanded to textiles, water, agricultural, and others. And by 2024, they have over 200 employees nationwide, and also an agricultural kind of research station in India. We continue to work with Tidal Vision, and John has a very good relationship with them to keep them as their headquarter here in Bellingham and Whatcom County. Back to the base economy conversation, we always are looking at ways for housing, affordable housing, and ways to increase the overall housing stock to get the vacancy rates correct here in Whatcom County. Long-term strategy. We'll take credit for all of it when it works, but as it moves forward, it's just trying to figure out how to move the dial on it. Agriculture Research Center, a base part of our sector is agricultural. We want to help support them. And one opportunity that's in front of us is to identify partners and locate an agriculture resource center here in Whatcom County. Infrastructure highlights, goal 2. And then also, as it relates to DEI, the broadband work. Gina Stark has spent years on broadband, broke ground with the first broadband route in Nooksack, looking to deliver service to about 729 homes. And we have 3 other projects that are moving forward as well, with North Linden, North Ferndale, and the East Nooksack project is completing up. The Economic Development team also works pretty closely with the Economic Development Investment Board. Myself, Commissioner Bell, have a seat on that board. The ADO, which is the hat that we wear in economic development, has a board member. That's really looking to realign some of the strategies of EDI to get dollars to public infrastructure to attract and retain businesses. All American Marine, as the commission all knows, is a really good example of using EDI to retain and expand their business, and we use some of those public funds to do that. We continue to look forward the GIS database and the work that was done in about 2019 and then re-upped in 2023. This is the Whatcom County Property Utilities and Resiliency Database. And also with that information and identifying different areas within the county, getting CURB grants for economic analysis study. The one that we're working on here and we're referring to is a Grandview in North Ferndale, working with Yuri Burnett and Mayor Hansen to establish areas to be able to look for sewer extensions, to be able to attract more industrial lands. And the one that was considered from commission this this afternoon is the Point Roberts economic impact study and analysis that we're looking forward to. Corey Olson in our office does a lot of workforce development work and connections. This is calling out the 2023 Marine Trades Fair that had 36 marine trade businesses and about 300 attendees. We increased that in 2024 and really looking forward to the 2025 event. And then just recognizing the partnership with Sierra and Deb Granger, the Northwest Maritime Apprenticeship, and the work from there. And Sierra came and gave a presentation to commission, last commission meeting or 2 commission meetings ago. Just recognizing workforce is very important. We want to be the voice for the businesses that have workforce issues and be able to connect in to the post-secondary and apprenticeship programs to be able to try to connect those dots. Strengthening relationships. There's a lot of goodwill between the regional relationships. I would say 6, 7, well, I don't know, it's been maybe 8 years. The port got additional dollars through EDI to strengthen the economic development department. The big task at that point was to go north of the border, create those relationships and try to attract those businesses down. We're still working on that and accomplishing that work. John Mitchner is on the Surrey Board of Trade. He and I just went up last week to Surrey, BC, and have a plan to go talk to a developer north of the border in the next month. And then also establishing the foreign trade zones. The port sponsored a seminar and then also administers the foreign trade zones within this area. One highlight I wanted to call out is Marcon Metals. So in 2020, Marcon's located in Ferndale, Washington. In 2020, recruitment. So John worked specifically with Marcon Metals to expand their business from Canada here to Whatcom County. They purchased a 50,000 square foot building in Ferndale, Washington. We coordinated some work associated with the power that was needed at that facility in 21. In 2022, the Marcon was able to create 30 jobs locally of advanced manufacturing and metal. And by 2023, we established a foreign trade zone for them as well. And now as we move into 2024, they've created 30 additional jobs. So that's a really good example of using Whatcom County's strategically located area south of the border, bringing Canadian companies down. A lot of them want to get in line for the infrastructure acts that require Build America, and Marcon is one of those examples. So the relationship John was able to build over the years, and what our department's trying to do is navigate those relationships. Resiliency and recovery efforts is a goal of the SEDS. I'd want to really recognize that CJ Sites at the SBDC, Maury at the Community Foundation, really did yeoman's work back in 22 and 23 to get business grants out to the dollars to those businesses that were impacted by the floods. Jen Novak, who's a consultant that we work very, very closely with and used to be on the Port of Bellingham staff, helped facilitate that conversation as well. And a lot of it was, the House Bill 197 and trying to allocate the $10 million of statewide funds that went into business support. So a couple examples of that would be working Washington 5.0 and 22, the border closure conversation, hospitality, and then Northwest disaster grants. Going a little further down, remember SBDC, CJ Ash Ryder at the SBDC provided all the technical assistance and outreach to these businesses. Our group at the port, advocated for the expediting grant distribution, shared the request of damages reports to the public, data analysis support, and then also shared some grant marketing communications in 5 different languages. Overall, that directed $10 million into the impacted counties throughout the state. Whatcom County was able to allocate out $5.69 million, $5.7 million into businesses that were impacted. And with the work that SBDC Business Advisors did that got to 81 different businesses, 42% women-owned businesses, 22% identified as BIPOC, and it was on an average of $67,000 grant amount. I want to recognize that we need to continue to do that partnership with the SBDC, continue to strengthen this opportunity, because I think disasters will likely continue to come, and we need to be more prepared for them to help support the businesses. The quote that's on here is from Nicole Sandoval-Postma, former Sumas Chamber of Commerce president and an owner of Loca Mocha in Sumas. When you think local first, local businesses are the ones who need help first. They do not have the funds to hold on. And so that's really just talking about how to work with the state to get dollars ready to be for disaster recovery, and working directly with the small businesses, because they're really the heart of our business community. So that was where we were. And looking forward, 24 and beyond, again, really excited about joining the port, having the team that we have in economic development and port-wide. Really want to work us on workforce, a focus on infrastructure and where infrastructure needs to be, and then keep discussing the ability to develop industrial lands for a sustainable economy. The SEDS goals and the comp plan, I have a unique skill set and knowledge of Whatcom County and the cities and the planning process. So working with the 7 cities in the county to integrate some of these economic development strategies into their comp plan, continue to strengthen the relationships. One of the goals I have by the end of 2025 is to really establish a data dashboard and metrics to be able to have a better sense of how the economic development team is working and how that affects some of the overall economic strategies throughout Whatcom County. And then really focus on business retention and expansion efforts. We've done some work on identifying the different sectors we want to work on: advanced manufacturing, agriculture, marine trade, construction, aviation, cybersecurity, and healthcare. So we've established all of the top businesses in each one of those sectors, and have calendared the reach outs and the visits to each of those businesses to get a better sense of what they need as it relates to staying here in Whatcom County, expanding, or building upon. And just lastly, one thing I should recognize in here is one of my goals is to continue to strengthen our relationship with the economic development team, into the group that's here in this audience, and the port-wide team as itself. Kind of using and strategizing some of the economic development strategies countywide into the work that Sam just got done talking about, Brian's been talking about, Rob talks about as it moves forward. So excited to work through that.
You done?
I'm done.
Either one of you ready?
It was just
Mr. Briscoe?
great job, Tyler. I'm glad to have you, and I think that you've brought something to the port that we've needed in the economic development area for a long time, and that's this. You're putting everything together, and I really like that. It's a great job. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Shepard?
Yeah, we focused and made some significant strides around broadband. How are we going to maintain our momentum and success on broadband given a key resignation?
Yeah, it's a great question, Commissioner Shepard. I've already been in contact with representatives at the county and the PUD. Right, we have a structure with the port, the PUD, and the county to kind of be the team associated with the broadband projects. Andrew Eckstein, who's their broadband manager, and I met last week. We're going to strategize ways with Rob and Chris at the PUD in the very near future to move forward. I've met and sat down with both Cobb Finley, who's a consultant doing design and engineering of the projects that we already have in line, and Pogo Zone, who's the company that we have the IRUs with. Soon I'll be able to tell you what an IRU is, but right now it is kind of.
We know.
Irrevocable right to use.
There you go. And and so with that, what's important is that we have 3 projects kind of in the books that we're moving forward with: East Nooksack, North Ferndale, and North Linden. And so I will strategize ways to keep those moving forward. And then what's ahead of us is the BEAD funding. So the BEAD funding notice will come out, I think, November 13th, to be able to submit to the BEAD funding by the end of January. And there's 11 different areas countywide where we will submit with partnership with the PUD for those BEAD funding applications. Gina had done a lot of work with that. Andrew is totally up to speed, and I'll be strategizing ways to ensure that the ball keeps moving forward.
Good. And, you know, those two worked closely together. They really shared a lot of expertise. For me, the importance of that BEAD funding is that I don't know if there's going to be a lot coming down the pike after that. And so we've got to really take every opportunity we can to bring in that BEAD funding. It's complicated to work with. It's difficult federal money, but it's coming through into the states, and it's a tranche that may not occur again.
Agreed.
And so we've got to try and get as many of our projects lined up for that as possible. And we've got a great track record to show for. We've got a good model. I think we keep using that same model, and we've got a good chance at these next funding.
Agreed.
Okay, thanks.
I'm going to challenge that a little bit and ask, is this maybe an opportunity to consolidate the workforce around broadband and maybe look to the PUD and the county to take over what we would typically have used as the port? We got involved in broadband because there was nobody else. Nobody else stepped up to the table, so by default, we get broadband. So my contention is that we've now got this divided into 3 pools. What happens if we consolidate those pools into one agency that does that work, whether it be the PUD or Whatcom County? I don't know that it necessarily belongs in the port. I think it's a distraction personally from a lot of the work that's currently going on. And this may be an opportunity to have that discussion with the PUD or with the county and help them in any way we can, by all means. But let's discuss what are the pros and cons of having all of that consolidated. Just my own personal opinion is it probably belongs in the PUD because that's what they do.
I agree it's an opportunity to have those discussions. I want to compliment the PUD. They were the really first to kind of reach out and say, okay, let's partner and move and continue to move this forward. So I think Rob and I will have a little bit of those conversations with PUD leadership and engage the commission on the right strategies forward. Yeah, the important part is we can't drop the ball, right? We need to continue to move forward with the projects and the BEAD funding as commissioner.
A smooth handoff is always important, but I do think consolidating into one organization would be my preference.
It's something to consider for sure, and I understand that request.
And the PUD has an excellent staff member.
They do.
Who knows this.
Andrew is very talented
front and back,
as it relates
and so
to
we've got a great resource there, and it does fit into the PUD's mission. Yep. I think we've taken it on because it has clear economic development benefits for our county as a whole, and there was a clear need.
And the port will still partner, right? One way or the other can still partner from the economic development benefit and work through, and there's funding needed and where it goes. So I'll be able to bring that conversation back to the commission after Rob and I have a chance to talk through it and
the analogy I've used in the past is that the port's job really is to get things from 0 to 60. And then once they've gotten started and we've got some momentum, then you put it on cruise control and let someone else take over from there. This would fit into that mold.
Great. Thank you, Commission.
Anything else? I've got a couple more, don't you?
What about the the funding when it first came out was through the ports for handling that? Has that been handed off now? As far as money's coming and grants coming, I mean, when broadband first got going here, 3 years ago we started this project. The funding was coming to the ports too. Is that still going on, or has that changed?
No, it's still coming to us. In fact, there's some complications with the PUD.
So if we hand that off,
we'd have to figure out how to hand the funding off. But there's some complications there too about ownership of utilities that it's a little more complicated than I think what we're going to have here tonight. Tyler and I have some stuff we need to work through with the PUD to answer all your questions, but the funding is very much still coming to the port to do those projects.
Yeah, so
And we're
it's-
doing those projects.
Yeah, so we can't just,
And
here you go.
It's more of a, we just need a point person or a point organization. Right now, we seem to be between the port, the PUD, and the county. Everybody's got a say and everybody's got a, but if we just had a point organization, that's, okay, just a couple things, just to clarify in things that we've discussed. Industrial ground zoning and the comp plan, and where is that headed and how does it look for future, for maintaining what we have and possibly growing our pool?
Yeah, so last council meeting, the commission passed a contract to hire Mal Foster Alongi. That work is going to be doing employment projections and GIS analysis of all the industrial lands countywide and the cities. We will be working with the county and the city planners, where I'm actually going to go on this Friday to discuss with them what the data needs are and strategize from a planning standpoint where the cities are likely to go from industrial lands, to acknowledge where we should grow with additional industrial lands if that's what the employment projections recognize. A component of that is to understand where the infrastructure is and how much cost it will be to expand the infrastructure, water and sewer, power, to be able to truly develop those industrial lands. And understand if some of the industrial lands are wetlands and maybe better zoned something differently than industrial, because I think you'll find that in some of the northern Bellingham areas. And if that's the case, how do we strategize ways to expand industrial lands and the zoning associated with them in different, more appropriate locations?
Yeah, I'd be interested in understanding how the port plays a role in maybe facilitating, maintaining some of those industrial grounds. If there's a way for us to intervene in some way, like we did on the Marine Industrial Park, that would be important.
Yeah, I think the idea will be to utilize the Business and Commerce Committee to speak a little bit more specificity once the comp plan process has gotten to that point. But I believe with the study that the commission just passed and my involvement in the comp plan conversation, the port's framework and footprint is a little bit more solid than it has been in the past of those comp plan processes. And I'll look to continue to do that in 2025.
Okay. And then, just because I've been involved in those meetings, can you kind of describe how the EDI funding has kind of shifted a little bit of its focus from direct economic development somewhat into housing?
Yeah, the community has recognized that housing and affordable housing is a component of economic development. There's a lot of discussion about business expansion or recruitment. How would we recruit businesses in because of the housing prices are so exorbitant? And so to be responsive to that, the county has been able to utilize their EDI fund, their Economic Development Investment Fund, for affordable housing projects. Representative Rammel in the 40th actually changed state law to allow for those dollars to be used for nonprofit affordable housing projects. They're calling it workforce housing, which is somewhere less than 120 AMI. So somewhere between the 40 or 60% up to 120 AMI. So EDI dollars can be used for affordable housing projects, and that's allowed or required the county council to have a policy conversation about how much dollars should be allocated to traditional EDI projects, All-American Marine Infrastructure as an example, regional stormwater facility north of Costco as an example, the regional stormwater facility in Blaine to bring in some growth in the Blaine area. Those are traditional infrastructure projects. How do you balance that with this allowance by state law to use it for affordable housing? I believe the county council spoke to that today, had an update from the staff at the county. But I would say that those EDI board meetings have been useful in the policy conversation, and I think there's a good framework to ensure dollars will be committed to EDI projects, traditional infrastructure projects, while also having a framework for affordable housing.
And just so the rest of the commission is aware, one of the things that we continue to advance at the port is that we don't want to sacrifice the money when we may need it. There may be a large need for EDI funding down the road, and to spend all of the money on immediate needs may not be the wisest choice, especially if it's moving towards housing, because housing is not necessarily the mission of the port. So EDI funding is there for when we have larger industrial projects, in my mind, and when we have a need for infrastructure to expand areas that would bring jobs and create jobs, more so than housing. And it's just been a real tension, I think, from that standpoint. And there was a provision in the EDI funding that said 20% would be reserved, 20% of the fund would be reserved for housing for the next couple of years, specifically for it, set aside. And so I didn't have as much of a problem with that because it was a limited time frame, but it is there. If that gets extended and a permanent use of EDI funding is now to work on affordable housing, that would be problematic for me. So just keeping you aware of where the EDI funding discussions are going. Wetland banks. You want to talk about wetland banks and how that fits?
Sure. I thinking it was election night and we all wanted to get out of here a little early, but I'll go into wetland banks.
No, it's not over. It'll be over next Thursday.
Oh, yeah, good point, good point. So wetland banks has been a big strategy from both the county and the city. And I know wetland credit is very important for development purposes for the Port of Bellingham. Lots of discussion on airport lands and other properties, ensuring that there's enough wetland credit to be able to accomplish the sustainable economic development that the port's mission is to do. And so the city of Bellingham has actually purchased some property north of Costco in the North Bellingham area between Northwest and, say, Pacific Highway. And they're establishing a wetland bank in that location. It has taken 8 to 10 years to get to the point that they're at. And they are currently using some EDI funds, some economic development funds, to get the capital upfront needed to do that wetland enhancement that they can then turn around, accomplish the Corps' decision-making to approve the wetland bank, and then use those credits that they've done the enhancement for the wetlands or the creation of the wetlands for development permits that either the city has, other public jurisdictions. They've reached to Brian's staff and myself about what the port's needs are associated with anticipated wetland impacts for development. And then also the city has set aside some credits. They are still determining the policy associated with it for private developments. And I think that they'll need to go through and decide exactly how to use those wetland credits for private developments. But I think that it's a really good example to build upon. The port has some properties in the adjacent areas, and I've been working with Brian to connect in with the natural resource staff at the city to talk about how we could maybe move that forward from the port standpoint, as Rob and I have talked about, but also from a countywide economic development purpose. There is not a development permit that is reviewed by a city or county that doesn't have to discuss wetland buffers, wetland mitigation, because all of the high dry ground has been developed. And so we need to strategize ways to do the enhancement, the creation of wetlands in a more strategic location that provides the ecological benefit for the area and for the fish and for the habitat, and maybe allow for some of the smaller impacts in those other unavoidable areas to allow for development to move forward.
And I'll cut this short just a little bit. Really what we're talking about is the port's role in having lands available and how we can consolidate some of the wetland properties and have an impact as a port, and how we can free up, because those wetlands really are critical to developing housing. If we're going to have a housing component, it's how do we assist in creating those wetland banks, and that's really what that discussion is. Because I know you want to get out of here.
No.
And I've only got
city-
16 more items here.
Is the city going to administer that bank then?
Yes.
Do we have a sense if how subscribed it already is?
So yes, so the city has invested both city funds and staff time in their natural resource department. So Renee LaCroix, Annalise Burns, and they are reaching, I don't have the answer for how subscribed. I believe there's opportunity that other partners could use the wetland mitigation bank, but I don't know by what percentage or by what wetland credit. But that was a recent reach out to Brian and staff to see what was on the port's list, to understand how much wetland mitigation the port may need, so that they can consider that into their wetland mitigation bank. So it does seem like there's an opportunity there.
Seems like given the time that they take to get up and running, if we're projecting need beyond the subscription levels that are available, then we should start having this conversation about a use of EDI for a second.
Yep. It's a great idea. And maybe that's where the port's adjacent property could come into the discussion.
Because they have a clear benefit, and I can only imagine they take a long time to get. And I don't even want to think about the bureaucracy involved in how one gets organized and set up. It's going to make my head hurt.
Yeah.
But it should be started sooner than later because it's going to be used up.
And I think it would be a partnership with the city where they'd likely continue to administer it, right? Because they already have that set up in the framework.
Please do.
And we can see where the port can continue to help facilitate and grow it into the next phase.
Welcome your involvement in that as we go. Okay, really only 16 more to go. I just wanted to say lastly, John, Matt, Corey, thank you for the work that you guys put into this. It's not lost on us how much and how good you are. So thank you for your group. With that,
absolutely,
I'm going to move on. We're going to move on to our action item, and that's all right with you. The action item is to authorize the executive director to execute a memorandum of understanding with the Downtown Bellingham Partnership to recognize the partnership work in economic development in the downtown and central waterfront neighborhoods and to participate in the Washington Main Street program. Mike Hogan.
Good evening, Commissioners. Mike Hogan, Public Affairs Administrator. I'm really excited about the next presentation and to welcome Lindsay Payne Johnson to the port to talk about downtown Bellingham. Lindsay is the Executive Director of the Downtown Bellingham Partnership. They're a 501c3 focused on growth and vibrancy downtown. And when we talk about economic development, you all know how important the downtown Bellingham is to the regional economic development throughout Whatcom County. And, so Lindsay's going to talk about some of the great work they're doing, but there's another conversation that is also really interesting is how does the waterfront relate to all that? And this is a conversation, it's not new, it's been going on since I started at the port back in the Stone Age, when the port was first looking to acquire the Georgia Pacific site, and the Waterfront Futures Group was focused on both the opportunity and then the concerns about the port acquiring the Georgia Pacific side, and what, if we were to acquire the GP site, turn it all into retail, it could really kill a lot of the downtown businesses. And they were still reeling from 1988 when the Bellis Fair Mall opened and a lot of the anchor tenants left downtown. And but then they were also really interested in the opportunity and what opening up public access to the water could do, and seemed like it was going to take a million years, but here we are. And so a lot has happened between back then with the Waterfront Futures Group and the Waterfront Advisory Group followed up that work, and there were some guiding principles in the Waterfront Advisory Group that talked about things the port could do and we could do of adding jobs in the waterfront district. And so you think about All-American Marine, for example, in 2015. You think about iTech solar panels in 2016, even though they've gone out of business. those were really great opportunities to add jobs that would support downtown, support Old Town. And then, flash forward to today where we're starting to hear those conversations about the relationship between the waterfront and downtown, not only with the existing downtown businesses, but also with our waterfront tenants. And, Colshan Trackside's like, oh, it'd be great if it was easier for people to get down to the waterfront. So, you think about connectivity and how do the streets and infrastructure and trails. We had conversations with the phase 2 of the Millworks group, and they're talking about how can we get connections quicker from downtown to the waterfront. And, we talk about the next phase of infrastructure with the parking garage over Bay Street and increasing that connectivity. So from the connectivity standpoint, really important how we turn on, so how we use the waterfront to enhance downtown. You talk about events, the Northwest Tune-Up. They bring over 10,000 people, and those people aren't just going down to the waterfront, they're going to downtown restaurants and businesses and shopping down there. There was a person that attended the Tune-Up last year that is now opening Filler Raven, the business in downtown Bellingham. So, and we're just really at the start of this, using downtown or the waterfront to enhance downtown. And then just from a marketing perspective, people really like waterfront cities, and it's something that Bellingham's never really had before, and it's just starting to come online. So, what a terrific opportunity to use that to get visitors to come to downtown, to get investment to come to downtown, to get workforce to come and want to live next to live near Bellingham and open businesses in the surrounding community. So it's a really exciting conversation, the connectivity between the waterfront and downtown. And one of the strategies that Tyler talked about in the CEDS, the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy report, was forming partnerships with organizations like the Downtown Bellingham Partnership. And so without stealing Lindsay's thunder and the partnership that we're envisioning, I'd really like to welcome her to talk about some of the important work that's going on downtown. And then also, when we think about that connectivity between the waterfront and downtown, one of the things we're talking about is the possibility of having a summit where we bring in all the stakeholders, including you and the businesses and different folks, and just kind of have an update. Where are we? What's going on? What are the opportunities? Because, in the coming years, there's going to be really important decisions made about where we invest, how that happens, and a tremendous opportunity. So, when we think about sustainable economic development, I'm really pleased to shine the light on downtown Bellingham and welcome Lindsay to the port.
Good evening, commissioners. Thank you for having me. Mike, thank you for that introduction. Appreciate it. So yes, the Downtown Bellingham Partnership, our mission is to foster the health and vitality of downtown Bellingham. We accomplish this by promoting culture, commerce, and celebration. The way we approach this work is through 4 different buckets, if you will: economic development, outreach, design, and of course, events and promotions. Some of the examples and the way we approach this work is through placemaking projects, including our seasonal gallery alley, some plaza activations in the downtown core, activating some of the parking garage that Mike referenced. We also, of course, Downtown Sounds is a way that we illuminate promotions and events in the city center. We also facilitate what we call our City Block program. I'm really proud of this program. It's a way that we get businesses together on a monthly basis to really hear about their needs, challenges, also identify areas for opportunities, connect them with various leadership, including the mayor's office and city department heads. So we are a huge economic driver for downtown, and we're really excited to be having these conversations recently with Mike and with Tyler. We're excited to explore relationships to continue strengthening the relationship between the port and the Downtown Bellingham Partnership, as well as the waterfront and downtown. So we've identified a few strategies. We've kind of highlighted how we're already doing this work through a variety of promotions. We launched a campaign this year called Rediscover Downtown that included a piece to really highlight the connectivity between the waterfront and downtown. Mike referenced the word connectivity a few times, and that's a word that we've also been using really frequently, and are excited to really lean into that to see what that means from an urban trail level, a visual, like artistic piece, cross promotions. He mentioned Noisy Waters and Fire and Story, and we're kind of interested in how we can harness some of that energy and bring it up to the downtown core and vice versa, and really be key partners in those conversations and in that work. We talked about event participation, again, connectivity, walkability. We would love to invite the Portal Container Village just participated in a really sweet downtown trick or treat last week. There's also our First Friday event. So anytime we get the opportunity to promote and show just like the walkability between the waterfront and downtown, and how efficient those trails and the access can be. And also just general project collaborations. Alley activation is one of my favorite things to talk about. And we've identified some alleys that have really beautiful connectivity between downtown and sites of the waterfront, and how we can kind of increase those physical connections. And then of course, just relationship building. We mentioned Team Wacom. The partnership is a member of that. I'm the representative for those conversations. We'll be rebooting several of our committees, including our Economic Vitality Committee, where we'll be extending a seat to the port. And then, of course, having port representation as an ex officio. Tyler recently joined our board of directors as an ex officio. So really just identifying ways to strategically work together through these different avenues. And really, yeah, we're excited to just kind of keep leaning into it. So that's kind of the overview I have for you this evening. Happy to answer any questions or expand on any of that.
Commissioner Shepard?
Thank you. Glad to see this moving forward. We are conscious that it's a balancing act between development at the waterfront and maintaining and supporting downtown. And so we do hear some of the concerns when trackside is really hopping. It's a magnet, and we want to make sure that we're creating that back and forth flow, that there's a synergy there between downtown and the waterfront. And especially over the next couple of years, while we're still seeing some of the build out of housing down at the waterfront, in not too distant future, there's going to be several thousand people living in that waterfront district. That's not only going to be a pull to the waterfront, but a push into downtown. And so I'm looking forward to that balancing continue to mature as we get more residents down there, as we get more tourism being driven to the waterfront, that it pushes into downtown as well. And so it's a great opportunity for us to continue working on that connectivity and really hosting events that are mutually beneficial. So good to see this.
Commissioner Briscoe?
Yeah, it's going to be tough to get it all put together, but got a good start on it. Thank you for the presentation. It explains a lot. I don't know, maybe we need to put in like temporary escalators, you know, up and down from where the parking garage is going to go. Or maybe a slide, you just jump on your gunny sack and down you go. Something to get things easier to get down there rather than walking all around. So, there you go. That'll work. That'll work. So, but thank you for the work you do for the people of Bellingham and Whatcom County.
Can't remember the last time I heard the term gunny sack. But thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Are we reminiscing now,
the
or
vision
what?
is the same. Yeah, we are. That's how old I am. Basically going from where Mineport is down through Camber and on down into the waterfront, I visualized at some point just being one fluid, solid flow back and forth of commerce between. So yeah, the vision is the same. The one thing I'm really happy for is I honed in on the relationship building. Clearly we need that. Clearly you can help us with that. Part of that communication is to make sure everybody understands that our mission is not just the waterfront, that the port has got a bigger mission, and that is job creation, and that's going to have an impact. Not as much fun, but it is a lot more work. But having that communication continue is great. Otherwise, I love the partnership. I love the reason for the partnership, and we look forward to having a long and healthy relationship with you. Thank you.
Yeah, so just one more piece. I'm Tyler Schroeder again. Really excited about
election tonight?
What's that?
Don't we have to get out of here for?
There's a Seaholm soccer game too, but I think they're beating Linden right now, so we're doing pretty good.
Wondered where your pressure point was.
So I just first want to compliment Lindsay, and she and I have been working together to put this together, and I think staff was really excited to build on that relationship. I did want to call out that this also is an opportunity to do the Washington Main Street Community Program, which is leveraging dollars to the downtown partnership to be able to get a B&O tax credit for next year. A really neat opportunity to get dollars directly to Bellingham Partnership instead of to B&O tax. And the opportunity is to really kind of be able to leverage a 75% tax credit. But I just want to recognize that for the commission. For me, I think the most important part is the partnership and laying out what's in the MOU, but it does also have a financial impact of $15,000.
And we would do it, whether we got the tax credit or not, more than likely.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm going to read the motion. Action item, authorize the executive director to execute a memorandum of understanding with the Downtown Bellingham Partnership to recognize the partnership's work in economic development in the downtown and central waterfront neighborhoods and to participate in the Washington Main Street Program. Commissioner Briscoe?
Yes.
Commissioner Shepard?
Also yes.
Commissioner Bell is also a yes. All right, at this point in time, we've got a moment for our last public comment period for the evening. Anyone online wishing to speak, just raise your hand. We'll start here in the audience. Anybody in the audience that wishes to weigh in on anything that we've discussed this evening or has remaining thoughts? Dan?
Hey, Dan with the Working Waterfront Coalition. I'll make it quick just to tag into what Lindsay and Tyler were talking about. We've actually had several requests from folks like Ponderosa and All-American and a couple of others for a footbridge that goes across the tracks, because if you're on foot or you're on bike, getting all the way down to F Street, going across that crossing, which looks intimidating even though it's not, and then coming back down towards this area, that was something they were hoping could make it on somebody's docket to take a look at. Mayor Lund has also asked us, because we do regular check-ins with their office, to come up with ideas for how to bridge the traffic gap from the hill down to trackside. So that's something that we've been engaged in several community conversations with, and we're going to continue to engage in those conversations. So,
thank you.
City-sponsored zip lines.
Is there anybody online? Nobody online? All right, we'll move to other business. Commissioner Briscoe?
I had some, but I'm going to save it till next meeting because I think everybody would like to get out of here, so I just as soon save what I've got. It's not that
Mr. Shepard?
I'm going to say mine before I forget. I wanted to just connect. We were talking about capital projects. We have the alcohol building, and that roof continues to leak on the annex, and I'm wondering if when it needs to be addressed. It feels like it should have been addressed at some point in the past, and is this an opportunity that any of our staff can do something temporary to prevent long-term building problems on that? It just, every time it rains, I think about that roof.
Yeah. The good news on that is we have done some structural assessments on that. We're right now underway with an adaptive reuse assessment that included structural and engineering and looking at it, not mostly for a potential rebuild. But the good news was that the roof portion is not there are some failures, but the way the building is constructed, there's not like an imminent failure of the entire building. So we do have some ways we can look at doing some repairs. First thing we want to do though was to get the adaptive reuse study done. Then if we were going to pursue that, a reuse or an RFP of that or some other process, then we would have a path forward there. So we do have some data on it, so we can look next year at seeing if we can do a temporary fix or what we would really need to do to make sure it stays safe. That's our main goal. Yeah.
Okay. I've heard about the studies before. Is there a document that we can take a look at that has some of these planning or thoughts about the adaptive reuse, seems like there's been some work happening, but I haven't seen any.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we're underway right now. We've gotten a few draft documents that kind of helped inform some of the next steps. We're working. I mean, actually, I think we'll be meeting in the next week or so with the architects, and then they're going to be doing a cost analysis of that too. So we wanted to kind of have a full package, but we can definitely share some of the draft documents so you can see what work's been done, and we can send that around to the commission next week.
I would enjoy seeing those.
Sure. Yeah, you bet. And we anticipate we would be doing a presentation on this, at an upcoming meeting when we had more of the full information to present to the commission.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have none, and next meeting is on the 19th.
Correct, 4 o'clock on the 19th.
Next port meeting is on the 19th, and now we're going to close the public meeting, and the commission's going to recess into executive session, and the purpose of the executive session is to evaluate the qualifications of an applicant. Nope, is to review public employee. The executive session is estimated to last about 1 hour. If it extends beyond that, we will come down here and announce that it has been extended, but expect it to last 1 hour.
Do we still need the executive session?
Oh, we left it on there. You'd rather not?
I was under the impression that we had already dealt with this.
It was a cleanup, so you didn't talk to them?
No.
Okay.
So if we want to recess and meet briefly, that's fine.
Okay, my bad, sorry, my bad communication.
Yeah, we discussed it, so maybe just a 10-minute,
Okay.
real brief, if that's okay?
I just didn't know we were doing something.
Thanks.
So we're